Welcome to Carol and Gary's See America Tour. Hello again, everyone. On Monday, February 24th, Carol and I decided to take a tour of the historic Pritchard House in Titusville. James Pritchard was born in New York City on October 21st, 1836. His parents moved from New York City to St. Louis, Missouri around the time the Civil War began, so James would have been approximately 25 years old. James enlisted in the Confederate Army and served as a captain in the Missouri Infantry. Missouri was one of those states that never declared itself as for the Confederacy or for the North, so inevitably James's father John served as a colonel in the Union Army. Luckily, the two men never met in battle, nor was either hurt during the war. While visiting Galveston, Texas after the war, James met Mary Haley Boyer of Key West, Florida. After a 3-week courtship, they were married on January 17, 1867. James was 30, Mary was barely 18. The couple settled first in Texas and later moved to Missouri. James and his wife Mary and their 3 children came to Florida in 1876 and settled on an acreage that was passed down from Mary's grandfather. The Pritchards grew sugar cane and citrus on this land. When a hard freeze 10 years later destroyed most of the crops, James gave up farming and turned to selling real estate and moved his family into a cottage in Titusville. In 1888, James organized the first bank in Titusville. The bank was incorporated in 1889 as the Indian River State Bank. He sold the bank 25 years later after serving as president for 37 years. 3 years later, the bank fell victim to the Great Depression and closed. In 1890, 2 years after starting the bank, and while still running the bank, James built the first electric generating plant in Titusville. He would sell this plant 24 years later to Southern Utilities for $35,000. In June 1891, a lot was purchased at 424 South Washington Avenue in Titusville, and the building of a 4-bedroom Queen Anne-style house was started. The Pritchard family would move into the new home in October of that year. Queen Anne-style houses feature a conical corner tower, a wraparound porch accented by steep gables, veranda and second-floor balconies, and fish-scale wooden shingles. The original occupants of the Pritchard house were James Pritchard and his wife Mary, their son Bood, who was 19 at the time they moved in, their youngest daughter Kate, who was 16 at the time they moved in, Mary's mother Frances Delespine Bouillet, and the family maid Julia Stewart. Their oldest daughter Frances Amelia had married Frank Budge in 1889 and lived in a different house. Frank Budge owned a hardware store on Washington Avenue, but sold this store to Captain Pritchard and his son Bood in 1898 after moving his family to Miami. It became James Pritchard and Sons Hardware. Family members owned and operated the hardware store until it closed in 1981. In 1913, Bood Pritchard married Lola Pauline Smith and continued to live in the house with their 2 children. Their daughter Mary Pauline married Frank Schuster in 1935 and raised their 3 children in this house. Captain Pritchard passed away in 1926. Pritchard family members continued to live in the house until it was purchased for historic preservation by Brevard County in May 2005. Brevard County received a $350,000 grant for historic restoration from the Florida Historic Commission in 2006. This grant included allowances for complying with current building codes and the Americans with Disabilities compliance. An additional $80,000 was approved for stabilizing the house. The house was jacked up and placed on steel beams while new concrete footings were poured, and piers were rebuilt using a mixture of new and old bricks. The house was then lowered, strapped to the piers, and leveled. After removing several layers of asphalt roof shingles, original weathered pine shingles were exposed. To restore the roof to the natural beauty and architectural grace of an authentic wood shingle, shingles made of pressure-treated pine with high solar reflectance and a wind resistance rating of up to 150 miles an hour were selected. These shingles have a 50-year warranty. 9 of the original 63 cypress exterior shutters were deteriorated beyond repair, so they were replicated and reinstalled. Here is a picture of the floor on the upstairs balcony taken before restoration was started. And here's a picture of that same floor taken during our house tour on Monday. The Pritchard House was restored to the way it was when it was built in 1891. It is furnished with antique furniture and accessories, not from the Pritchards, but from the time period. Unfortunately, there were no pictures allowed inside the house during our tour. The first floor consists of the main entrance hall, a stairway to the second floor, a parlor, dining room, and kitchen. This house had a dog trot style first floor. If you remember from our earlier travels, a dog trot means that the kitchen is separated from the rest of the house by a breezeway. This breezeway helped to cool the kitchen and keep the heat from the kitchen out of the rest of the house. As I said earlier, the Pritchards had a maid. A secondary set of stairs leading from the back of the house to the second floor gave the maid free access to the kitchen without going through the front of the house. Here are some pictures of the second floor that I found on the internet. Once a month, volunteers in vintage clothing hold an afternoon tea party at the Pritchard House. Seating is limited to 28 people and the event normally sells out, so reservations are required. Weather permitting, the tea party is held on the front porch of the house, otherwise it will be held inside. This concludes our tour of the Pritchard House. Our tour was very informative and is highly recommended to anyone who happens to be in the area. If you like this video but have not yet subscribed, please do so to be notified of future videos, and as always, feel free to share with your friends. Thanks for watching.